difficult to communicate or bring home so that our viewers, our community are able to understand and can be able to point out opportunities around waste management?
Thank you. So in Safaricom, waste has been a critical initiative for us, and we started this a long time ago when we developed two programs. We developed one known as an integrated waste management system and also an e-waste program. So for the integrated waste management system, we work with our partner Taka Solution, whereby they enable and help us to monitor all our waste streams, from our offices to some of our shops, basically enabling us to understand how much waste we produce and which areas produce certain types of waste. And this has helped us to be able to tailor programs in order to address this waste. For example, if you notice that such a facility is producing a lot of organic waste, it provokes you to understand why. And you are able to go to that facilities and engage with those people just to understand why is this waste the most prevalent waste. And you work out programs to enable them to reduce, reuse, and if they cannot reduce or reuse, now they focus on bringing Taka Solution in to help us recycle. On e-waste, we also work with a partner known as We Center, who we have partnered with, and we have availed all our shops across the country, where anybody can come with any electronic device that they find obsolete or spoiled, and they can hand it over there. And in turn, we contact the We Center people. They come, they collect the waste, they go and recycle the waste, and they give us that data, and we are able to tell at the end of the year how much e-waste have we collected and how much people have actually just joined in and helped us recycle this e-waste. Those are the two main things we've done on waste management.
So thank you, and I'm happy that you talked about Taka Solution, because Taka Solution is one of our partners who we work with. And in our model of partnership of the ecosystem, where I've said that we organize groups, we train them on sorting and separating the waste, then we bring partners like Taka Solution, then they're able to come, buy that waste, recycle it, and make it into a product. So what you're saying is that in your organization you're keen, and you have again a system that you have done within your organization, that you're able to have Taka Solution pick that waste. Are you separating the waste, or do you see the need from a Safaricom organization to separate the waste, to at least even try it? And if you're not separating, are you having any intentions that you'll be able to separate? And also, do you think it is necessary that waste should be separated at source from an organization or from home or from where the waste is being generated?
First, yes, we are separating, and yes, separating is, I believe, one of the most important points of recycling, because separating of waste, first of all, reduces the cost that is needed to tackle this waste. If you mix up your waste at source, the recycling companies have to incur an extra cost just to come and separate this waste, and then you'll find that you will contaminate some form of waste streams which could have been recycled easier. So I believe that recycling starts at sourcing, at sorting from source, I mean. So you have to sort from source, and then from there on, now you can, for instance, you can put your plastic separately, your organic waste separately, your paper waste separately. The organic waste will normally go into compost. The plastic will normally be shredded into small particles, which can then be refined into other objects. So for us, yes, we do sort, and we believe it's crucial that you sort at source. In all our shops and in all our offices, we have our 3-in-1 recycling bins. The 3-in-1 are set up in such a way that we have one bin for organic, the other one is for paper, and the third one is for plastic or any other waste that is not organic or paper.
Tell me, Safaricom, you have said, is a technology organization, and we have talked earlier on with you from an environmental perspective about plastics. And we have also agreed that there are quite a number of opportunities of recycling or upcycling plastics. Can you maybe talk a bit about that?
I will. In Safaricom, we have a target of eliminating single-use plastics from all our operations. That is from our warehouses, from our events, and from our offices. And with that, we've been able to, this year we were focusing on eliminating plastic, single-use plastic from our cafeteria. Meaning that normally people will ask why. We used to get these plastic cups which we will take juice from and walk with them to different parts of the offices, but now we are not getting them. So we will tell them we're doing this because of this and this, and it actually serves as a learning point, because people are able to understand this culture that Safaricom has, where we are focusing on the environment, where we're looking critically at what role plastic plays in our environment. And we've all agreed that it's a negative role that it plays. So how do we move away from that? How do we bring in other ways of addressing this menace called plastic, single-use plastic? What do we do? So in Safaricom, we normally start from data. And that is critical for us. In order to tackle an issue, you have to first understand it. You have to understand where it is, what perpetuates it, and what basically makes that challenge come to play. And that's where we decided to start out to develop our waste management system, which is basically a system which when our vendors, this Taka solution, normally collect our waste after we've sorted internally, they will normally give us that data into the system. And the system has the ability to basically modify, manipulate, and prepare graphical illustration of the state of waste in the organization, now focusing on plastic. So we'll be able to see, for instance, this month we had this number of plastics. And then if it's a spike and passes a certain threshold, we'll call them and ask them, we noticed this month the plastic was over the top. What could be the reason? They'll tell us probably there was a campaign, probably some external people came into the company and they came with plastic, and that's why the plastic increased. And from those analytics, we're able to structure, come up with policies that will better enable us to address that. So yes.
So you're saying that it's important to use technology to get the data so that you can even be able to monitor the threshold of what type of waste your organization is generating, and also then you're able to make policies that help you to reduce where you want to reduce or change where you need to change. Do you think that this is a good practice that other organizations can be able to embrace?
Definitely. We normally have a phrase that says, what gets measured gets done.
Yes.
If you do not know where you are at the current, you will not be able to know where you are headed. So you need first to establish your baseline. Where are you at? Do you have plastics? Do you have other forms of waste? How much do you have? Which areas are producing this waste? Why are they producing it? These are data which you will normally need to enable you to understand where you are. And then as you are now configuring your path, you know that by this year we want to eliminate this sort of plastic. By how much? By a certain percentage. So data is crucial for addressing any form of waste management, and technology enables us to be able to address such a challenge by enabling us to get that data.
Yes, and I know we are having a conversation as Taka ni Mali about the digital platform that we are putting together, and what we hope to deliver is exactly what you're saying, so that we're able to work with an organization and we're able to map the waste that is coming from the organization, and they're able to make policies to improve on that. And beyond that, we're looking into also how there are a lot of waste that can be recycled. How can we build value around that? And I give you an example. If an organization major waste is paper, how can we be able to collect that waste paper, and instead of dumping it, we can be able to work with the organization or a CBO, their CSR department, and that paper is sold to a recycler, and that money can be able to be used for CSR projects and those CSR projects can be able to benefit or meet the commitments of organizations for CSR. You have talked about plastics again, and we have earlier we were discussing about different opportunities of upcycling or different products that can be made by organizations. And I'm sure you have interacted, you have just shown me something that you bought from Coast, somebody who's making key holders. What are those opportunities that you have seen around that can be upcycled from products like maybe rubber, plastic, or any form of waste?
Good. So plastic, single-use plastic. Our focus is normally single-use plastic because plastic is in our day-to-day lives and it's something we have to deal with. And right now, our approach first deals with single-use plastic, as now we approach now the other forms of plastic. So single-use plastic is the menace because of the fact that it's produced a lot of times, and once you're done with it once, hence the name single, you throw it away. So there are various things that single-use plastics can be used to make. Looking at, there is this partner of ours who we work with known as Mr. Green, who for instance use plastic to make this, I don't know what you call them, this packet, these wrappers for what? For carrying material,
Yes.
Some
Carrier
sort,
bags, yeah.
carrier bags. So the issue of single-use plastic is how can you make them more reusable first, so that you omit the frequency of getting those plastic. So how do you first make them reusable and prolong their life and continue using them? And then after that, now focus on how can you now move away even from the reusable plastic. So I believe we can live in a world where there's no plastic, but it will take time. But I believe if we are serious enough as a country, as a continent, as the world, we can find other ways or other alternatives. Rubber, for instance, I have seen cases whereby a company known as Ocean Soul, I believe, have used rubber like for, I don't know what you call this, flip-flops. They will normally cut it out and create keyholes out of them, and then they will sell these keyholes. I, as a person, I normally lose my keys a lot of time. So having a key holder which is made out of rubber and recycled material makes me feel proud that, okay, I did not throw this away, but I used it to do something else. Those are the cases where I'm saying reusing this waste becomes valuable to us. While I was in school, there was a person who used to create very beautiful aesthetic ornaments out of plastic paper. So he will create like trees with leaves, and these people would actually buy and put them in their homes. So such initiatives create some sort of value which you can actually sell, generate more revenue, and be able to advance the issue of eradicating plastic from the society.
So thank you. I'm happy again you've talked about one of our partners, Mr. Green, who we work with, and what they are doing is collecting, washing, crushing, and converting that single-use plastic into plastic that can be reused again by other manufacturers, and increasing the reused period that you can keep that plastic by making raw material that can make other products, including like construction material. A table like the way we are having this one is from recycled plastic, and our partners also are embarking on that. Now, you have also talked about upcycled products, different opportunities that as Taka ni Mali we are trying. You talked about making flip-flop shoes, key holders, key rings. I've seen several other people who are even weaving baskets from single-use plastics. I've seen people who are making home decors. You see flower pots. A lot of creativity is out there. And as Taka ni Mali, one of the things that we are doing with our groups is to expose them to such opportunities, and not just exposing them to such opportunities, we even train them the skills so that they're able to come up with such products and they're able to get value out of that. So now, let us talk a bit about electronic waste, because apart from the program that you've talked about, the single-use plastic that you're doing, that you also talked about the electronic waste. How are you dealing with the electronic waste?
So in electronic waste, we are working with a partner known as Waste Center. We've worked with them for quite a while now, and I mentioned that we are partnering in terms of availing our shops to act as e-kiosks or e-waste collection centers for any electronic that you might have, whether it's an obsolete radio, an obsolete microwave, an obsolete phone. We will collect it. You can just drop it off at our shop, and we will reach out to them to collect. And their process is normally they will take the waste to their factory, and they will extract the important and valuable components of that waste. So if there's something that can be reused, they will extract it, and they will sell it to a recycler or recycle it. For instance, if it's a computer which can be refurbished, they will work with somebody else to refurbish it. And those remnants which cannot be recycled, they will normally make arrangements to dispose of them in an environmental friendly way. And that's what we advocate for, because even at Safaricom, we are cognizant of the fact that as a connectivity company, we are enabling a lot of electronics, and it is our responsibility to ensure that these electronics do not find their way into landfills. They do not find their way into water bodies, and these electronics are properly taken care of up to end of life, and hence why we are partnering with Waste Center to address the menace of electronic waste.
Thank you. And I hear you talking a lot about partnering, because if you look into how the methodology, again, the approach that we're using as Taka Nimali, is that we believe that taking care of the environment is a collective responsibility. And there's a lot in collaboration and partnership, and really no one person can be able to handle all sorts of waste. You've talked about Mr. Green and Taka Solution taking care of plastics. You're now talking about We Center. We Center is also one of our partners, and we work with them to handle the electronic waste. And you have also said that as an organization, you're being responsible to make sure that the electronic waste that you're generating is handled in the correct way. And I'm sure you're also taking several initiatives in educating the public on how to deal with electronic waste. Maybe you can tell me about awareness of how to handle health and safety measures, that maybe you have initiatives that you've done in training people together with We Center, so that people can be able to be aware of how it is that they handle the electronic waste.
Yeah. So I believe it was either last year or the year before that, we did partnership with We Center and NEMA, where we trained informal waste collectors. That's in Eldoret and I believe Kibera in Nairobi, where we just we got a hold of informal waste collectors, and we took them through a week session on how to properly handle e-waste. This was also conducted, also aided a lot by the We Center guys who normally do this for a living. So telling them that whenever you pick this kind of waste, this is what you should do, this is how you should handle it. And at the end of the day, we actually got certificates for them, and which we hope that will give them more stability and more credibility in terms of their way to address their means of addressing the e-waste menace. So that's what we've done. In terms of internally, we've brought in ads. I know when you walk to this any shop, there's normally that screen in a retail shop that shows you, for instance, if you're next on the queue or what your number is, so that you can be served. So we did a campaign whereby we did an e-waste animation, basically just to educate people who visit the retail shops and even the staff there on how to address e-waste. So it was an animation about how do you dispose of the e-waste, the bins which are there, which one is for e-waste, which one is for plastic, which one is for organics, which one is for paper. So we did that. We've been doing that since I think 2 years now. So it's something that runs, and we are always doing surveys with our internal staff just to understand from what point they are, what's their feeling about waste, what do they believe we can do about waste. Because you see, as a team, we are central, but we are cognizant of the fact that the company is big and people are in various places. Somebody is in Coast, somebody is in Kisumu, and in Kisumu you'll find that how they deal with waste is different from how they deal with waste in Nairobi. So getting that feedback from people is very important in order to understand how to address this waste, this electronic waste. Last year we did some campaigns with Waste Center, whereby it was more of a drive, whereby we went to various shops across the country, Kisumu, Coast, basically just creating awareness around e-waste, setting up sort of kiosks, talking to people about e-waste, telling them to bring their e-waste to us. And I know next week on 14th is International E-Waste Day. We're also planning something which we can do in regards to that, just creating more awareness around e-waste. Telling people to bring e-waste to us, we will dispose for them at no cost. So it's one of the things we are always doing, if not half-yearly, quarterly. So it's something that we are really passionate about and we will always continue doing. Yeah.
So from what I hear you're saying, as an organization, you have taken it as your responsibility. I have seen now the government is bringing what we are calling the extended producer responsibility. But we have organizations like your organization that already has spearheaded that journey of being responsible for the fact that you're sending electronic waste into the community, into the environment. You're taking those initiatives of even training and showing people opportunity on how it is that they can be able to get value from the electronic waste. And beyond that, you have said that you have given your shops that anybody who has any electronic waste, they can be able to drop it there. And working with Center, your partner, who is also our partner, that electronic waste can be picked and can be recycled. You said there are quite a number of valuable things that come from the electronic waste. I've heard people say that there's gold, there's silver, there are so many valuable things. What really comes from electronic waste?
Well, I won't delve much deeper because now that will be Waste Center's forte.
Yes.
But there are actual aspects, even me from a personal point of view. When I am throwing away, for instance, or I'm disposing my e-waste, I will normally look at certain aspects, like, for instance, the screen of a mobile device. That is something that can be used on another phone. So when you're throwing away, for instance, a phone, you know that screen can be used for something else. But you're still throwing it away. For instance, there is something inside, for instance, your headset. When you're throwing away, will you also throw away your headset? Your headset is still valuable. Even though that the phone will not be used, the headset will still be used. So those are the components I, as a person, will look at not disposing, and I will believe that they can be reused in other ways. But I know from Waste Center's point, there are other minute things inside the devices which they will mine. I'm not very well aware about which ones they are. I've also read about them just as you in terms of this. Either there's gold or silver, I'm not sure. But that's something probably they will be able to let us know and tell us, so that we are also aware of these minerals which are in these devices.
But I think what you are saying that is most important is that it is important to allow the experts to handle the electronic waste. Because electronic waste sometimes can be hazardous, and you do not want somebody to hear that there's gold or there's platinum in a motherboard or in an electronic device, and they think on how it is that they're gonna remove it, and then it becomes harmful because of maybe of emissions or whatever it is that would harm them in the environment. So it is important, and I hear you insisting that despite the fact that you're a big organization, you are allowing the expert of the electronic waste to handle the electronic waste. So it is important that our community, the people out there, to understand that electronic waste has value, but it can also be hazardous. So it is important to know how to handle it and how to dispose it. And the reason why we are saying that we dispose it with the expert and not let it go to the landfill is so that we take care of our environment, we take care of the people surrounding that environment, and where possible, we reuse, we recycle, we reduce, and most important, as we say, takataka ni mali, create some value from it. I've seen very creative young men coming up with artistic wall hangings that are made also from electronic waste. I've seen people even coming up with very creative motherboards or mats that you can use from the on the table. And I know we center, they do a lot of trainings, even to capacity build young people, and you have also said that you've done that with them before. Capacity build young people to understand how they can be able to come up with such products. But what is important, let experts handle the electronic waste, because it can be hazardous, there is value in it. You need to be educated to understand how it is that you can be able to dispose it or to get value out of it. I've talked a bit extended producer responsibility. These are policies that the government is putting together from NEMA and all that. And you have also talked about policies that you've put together in your organization to be able to handle the waste. Do you think, can you talk a bit more of policies that in the country that governs that? Is there anything better that we can do around? Do we have an enabling environment for us to be able to do sustainable waste management? I know he's not an expert, I'm also not an expert in that. Let's speak about it like laymen.
I know currently there are actually two regulations. There's the extended producer responsibility and the National Sustainable Waste Management. Is it a bill? Okay, that's an act now. An act. It's an act now. National Sustainable Waste Management Act. So those are the two key regulations that we look at in terms of waste management and how they are enabling us to address. On the extended producer responsibility, now we are at the level where guys are forming the PROs. Yes. The PROs, where you're looking at, is it the electronic waste PRO, the plastic PRO? So I believe those regulations will really, really play a large part of enabling us to handle waste. Because even from an organization point of view, normally we will come up with the policies, and then the policy will now guide on implementation. So the policies form a crucial part of implementation, and I believe that the two that are currently being followed, the EPR and the National Sustainable Waste Management Act, are very important. Very important. And if we adhere to them, if we implement based on what they demand from us, we'll be at a good place in terms of addressing waste management as a country. So yes, definitely, I believe in the policies.
And I love what you talked about, the Sustainable Waste Management Act, because it's an act that helps relate to organizations to look into how it is fast they can be able to build value from the waste and build it in a way that is sustainable. I've seen in the act talking about material recovery facilities, material recovery centers, sorting and separating at source. And I think those are some of the practices that you're saying that Safaricom as an organization is already embracing that. Let's talk about tree planting. Let's talk about projects that you have done out there to look into mitigation of climate change and that, because environment is not just about waste, we're also taking care also about the climate change and all that. What initiatives have you done around that?
Okay, so our major major program we're doing right now is we're looking at growing and not planting 5 million trees in 5 years. Currently right now we have done about 1 million trees, and these trees we are growing in order to enable us to offset our carbon emissions. As an organization, we are cognizant of the fact that we emit carbon emissions as a result of our operations, and this can be seen in our sustainable business report, which we always publish annually, and we assure these numbers with third parties just to ensure the credibility of our numbers, which shows the amount of emissions we emit as a company, both scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And part of our ambition is to reduce these carbon emissions, and we have subscribed to the Science-Based Targets Initiative, where we aim to reduce 74% of our carbon emission by 2050, and the remaining 26% we are hoping to offset by the trees that we are growing. So that is the basic need of why we are growing the trees. On top of that, we also chose trees because trees do not just provide an environmental solution, but they also provide a social solution. You'll find that these areas, these trees are managed not only by KFS, but the community forest associations. And the community forest associations depend on these forests for their livelihood. Whether you're looking at ecotourism, whether you're looking at camping and all that, because these forests provide a way for them to generate their living. Recently, there's been this talk of a shamba system, and now people can work together by taking care of trees and also cultivating. There's a lot of talk around that. I won't get into that, but forests provide an avenue for people to generate a livelihood. And we believe that is very important and very key for the communities around the forest, for the Kenya Forests Service, and for us as Safaricom as we seek to transform lives. Yeah.
Yeah. To a basic
person.
Mwananchi.
Carbon emission is when you burn a fossil fuel. A fossil fuel is, let me give you an example, wood or charcoal. And that carbon dioxide, that is carbon emission. Carbon being emitted. And carbon emission is negative because the atmosphere has a certain balance of carbon. If by it is you alter that balance, it creates a form of blanket in the atmosphere. This blanket creates a greenhouse effects. I'm bringing a lot of terms into this. I don't know if I'm still being a layman.
It's important.
I'm still being a layman. Yes. So this increased amount of carbon in the atmosphere creates a sort of blanket around the world. And that blanket prevents the heat from the sun from escaping back, hence creating high temperatures. And these temperatures are above normal. And now these temperatures are the ones which cause the negative impacts in terms of you're looking at drought in the northern parts of the country. You're looking at increased sea level because of melting ice caps. And that is, that's not carbon, that's global warming. Yes. I just got carried away, but yeah, the emissions, those are the emissions now. Yes.
I think it's a very important conversation because sometimes as a layman, we hear these big terms and we don't even relate to understand how they affect our day-to-day life. And there are global trades and global conversation. And I wanted to talk a bit of some of those juggles in climate change, so that the normal Mwananchi can be able to understand how that directly affects their day-to-day life. And small steps like what you're talking about, planting tree, making sure that we don't burn our dam site, can be able to help the globe to mitigate the big climate dilemma that we are talking about.
Okay. So taking you back to the actual carbon emissions. So burning waste, if you burn waste, you're obviously burning some form of carbon. If you're burning the components in the waste are carbon. And it's a personal initiative, even when you're driving. Carbon emission comes from various aspects of even combustion, even when you're driving, hence guys being driven towards cycling and other forms, electric vehicles, other forms which do not emit carbon. Actually, electric cars emit carbon, but a very small component of it compared to petrol and diesel cars. But personally, we should be very wary about carbon emissions because the facts are right in front of us. The changing rainfalls, the droughts in the north and eastern parts of the country. Nobody can say they have not faced all this. We used to have a lot of long rains during March, and then the short rains will normally be in December. Over the years, that has drastically changed. You'll find that sometimes the rains will not come. And more in the Far East, you'll find that they are facing more hurricanes, more cyclones, And this is all as a result of that change in balance, which I mentioned earlier. That balance needs to be maintained, and the best way to maintain it is to allow nature to maintain it. Let me put it like that. Allow nature to maintain it. Because nature ultimately, there's something we used to be taught in school about nature always looking to maintain its balance. I don't know whether it was called homeostasis, where there's always that nature will always try to maintain a balance. So as humans, we need to allow nature to take over. We need to look at solutions that are driven towards natural solutions, trees being a factor, and allow nature to guide us, because at the end, we depend on nature. Nature is what we need and what we've been living on ever since we evolved and became humans. You know that whole story. So we need to actually really take care of nature, and nature will take care of us. Yes.
So thank you. I allowed you to be a bit technical. You are the environment, so you understand the technicality of that language. It's important that we are able to have this conversation so that even our viewers, because we deal a lot with the local mwananchi, they are able to get a bit of that jargon that we are talking about and understand directly how that affects them. Are there opportunities in growing the trees or trying to reduce the carbon emission? Are there opportunities around that area?
Growing trees has a lot of opportunities. One of the organizations I have partnered or engaged with is an organization known as TIST. TIST has engaged farmers and has allowed farmers to grow trees, and in return, these farmers are paid carbon credits. When I met this team, I was especially impressed at how they carry out their processes. I even met with the farmers who actually grow the trees and who maintain the trees. And that value came out to me very clearly, the fact that you can grow trees, you can manage those trees, and at the end you will be paid something out of those trees. So there is value, yes.
So you're talking about value in carbon credits. So it is important that the bottom of the pyramid is able to understand some of these benefits and values that are coming. Some of these climate solutions that we are bringing together. And as Taka ni Mali, our responsibility, we are saying, is work with the experts, the people who've been there, so that we can be able to share information and show opportunities that our community can be able to tap into that. Our time is almost getting into an end. I think we have like about 15 minutes. Okay. But is there anything around waste management? We've talked about plastics, we've talked about electronic waste, and now we've talked about tree planting, that you feel that you need to handle that. And on that, we are talking about digital technology around waste management, around environment and that. And you've talked about data. Is there any other use of digital technologies or technology that is not just data oriented?
Well, globally, the trends driving the role of technology in waste management have increased considerably. There are IoT solutions currently, which I've read about, which focus on understanding the levels of waste. So for instance, if you are disposing of waste in a certain bin, there are instances where artificial intelligence can be able to understand how much waste you've disposed and communicate this by use of IoT to, for instance, a collector, such that a collector knows at what point your waste has reached and when he can come and collect it. So with the rise of technology, with IoT coming into play, with 5G, this connectivity, fast connectivity, I believe it will bring a lot of solutions in terms of managing waste, and all we have to do is just grasp it and work with it. So it's upon us to be creative on how we can tackle this waste, and I know we are a very creative bunch of people.
We can manage that.
Yes.
And I think this is one of the conversations as Taka ni Mali we are having in Safaricom on how it is that we can bring the technology of smart bins. We've also talked about the technology of smart cities. Those are practices that have been done out there. It's not rocket science. We can be able to partner together, collaboration, and bring those technologies down home and build opportunities around that. And we've talked about an IoT technology that is able to measure the levels of waste, that is also able to measure not just the level of waste that you're disposing, it's also able to measure literally to say, are you mixing your plastic or your paper? It's able to measure even and even give the data of are you mixing. If your intention is to separate, it's able to know that you're putting your plastics or your glass in the wrong space. So a lot of confirmation around that. We are working around that area, and we'll be talking to our community about smart bins and smart cities, the IoT technology that you're talking about, and use of other roles that we can use technology in solid waste management. Is there anything, any other initiative that you feel you have done that you have?
IoT is big for us. So we are focusing on IoT and 5G, which we recently launched. And as I said, the opportunities are endless. We just need to think around them and grasp them. So are we focusing on waste management? Right now, not at the moment, but is it something that we can look at in future? I would love to look at it in the future, because I love technology, and if I can use technology to address waste management, I'll definitely go for it. So yes, I believe there is space to look at that and how we can bring that into play, and it's something that I will be passionate at looking into.
Thank you. So to our viewers, we'll be looking forward to hosting you next week. As we have said, our objective is to really point out opportunities around solid waste management. As we say, Taka ni mali, we are saying there's a lot of value that can be put together. What we need and understand is how we can plug into the chain. If you're youth, you're women in your community, you can be able to work with homesteads. They can be able to separate. You pick what is recyclable and what is recyclable. Then you're able to partner or work with our aggregators. You sell your waste to the aggregators. The reason why we have aggregators is because the biggest problem that we have in the country is managing the logistics of that waste. And any recycler will not come to buy it is not aggregated and it meets the volumes that the recyclers would be able to buy it. They'll also not buy that waste for good value if that waste is mixed. And this is why we are doing a lot of capacity building and training different groups and different CBOs and youth and women on the ground, waste pickers, waste collectors, so that they can be able to understand when they separate the waste, when the waste is put in clean, it is raw material to another entity, and they can be able to earn on that. So look out on us. Look out in our social media, Taka ni Mali. Look out in our website, takatakanimali.org, and you can be able to communicate with us, ask us questions, look into how it is that you can join our CBOs and our community from our social media and our website. And looking forward to hosting you next week. My name is Mary Ngecho. I'm the patron for Taka ni Mali, and happy to have hosted you today, Owen, and our community. And look out for us next week on Thursday, Taka Thursday. As we say, Taka ni Mali, waste is wealth.
Improves the economy, society, and environment by creating jobs. What is a circular economy? A circular economy is a system of getting the most value of resources we use to ensure that we keep them at their highest utility for as long as we can. That is according to Ellen MacArthur Foundation in 2022. The circular economy concept ensures that resources are used efficiently using the three guiding principles of reduce, reuse, and recycle. This is achieved by eliminating waste and pollution, circulate products and materials to their highest value, and to regenerate nature. By the way, this improves the economy, society, and environment by creating jobs, reducing litter, reducing imports, reducing resource extraction, and improving human health. The circular economy is critical to accomplishing sustainable development goals in economic, societal, and environmental dimensions.